Elite recruits converge on South Florida for battle in the trenches.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Download the app or head over to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of the NBA. Today, we are going to discuss battle in the trenches, 5-on-5, something that I have been very happy to align with. It is the elite big men around the country converging in one spot in one-on-one battles, and I love it. It's great for recruiting. It's great to get your name out there, and it's great for guys like me in the recruiting industry because we get to see really good players go against each other instead of just push around somebody that's smaller than them on a Friday night. With all of that included, I want to give a shout out to my guy, Torrian Wilson. He's a really good dude. He's a trainer in South Florida. I mean, he's played with Bill Belichick. He's been around the block, and he's a South Florida guy in Broward County. If you've got O-line or D-line training needs, I expect you to find Mr. Wilson in South Florida. He's a really good guy. Also, Big Ray in Tampa. He's at Powerhouse Gym, Trench Academy. He was also involved, brought over California Power, the best 5-on-5 program in the country. That team is loaded. We're going to talk a lot about them in a second. But first, for those of you who don't know, what is 5-on-5? Why was I there? And how does recruiting work with all of it? We're talking about elite prospects from California, from Georgia, from Virginia. There were kids from Florida and all over South Florida in particular. And it's 5 people lining up as an offensive line. And then on the other side, it's 5 D linemen, and then it's just one-on-one reps. The other guys just stand there. You get back-to-back reps, and there's a time. There's a referee. They put a cone in the back so you could see it, and that is like your quarterback, if you will, and the defensive lineman tries to get there. It is just pass rush drill over and over and over. It's one thing, and you keep score with teams. Some are high school teams like Miami Southridge. Just as one example was there. West Boca, who won state in 6A in Florida last year, was there, among others. But they're also like the all-star teams like California Power. That's a national team. It's by far the most dominant there is. And they're probably not going to lose anytime soon because they have a national team. But there are going to be more that come down that line as well. Trench Gorillas and several others are building their rosters as well. So it's a lot of fun. And again, for guys like me in the recruiting industry, it is vital. As far as the prospects were there, holy cow, there were a ton. South Florida kids, and I'll just start with that since we were in South Florida, a player that I think is under the radar, a couple of them actually. Cameron Wilson, that's a kid that probably deserves more attention. Defensive end out of Southridge High School, still not fully developed. He's got a lot of power once he gets going, but he's not just a strike you and knock you on your butt guy yet. He's 6'4", 210. He is a true edge rusher in the sense of what you would expect out of South Florida. And that's a kid, Syracuse. Watch out for them. Speaking to the head coach or Southridge, like he made it clear, hey, Fran Brown's calling like he's interrupting our weightlifting every day afternoon. Must be his break or whatever. And I was like, okay. But he's talking to Cameron. Watch out for Fran Brown at Syracuse for a bunch of kids. Cameron Wilson included Syracuse. He's got a visit signed up with Cal. He's got Florida State. He could go to a lot of places, and I expect his recruitment to rise. I'll be interested to see after spring where Cameron Wilson ends up taking his OVs or if anything changes. Really athletic kid, has the ability to make people miss. Once he makes that first step, he can counter quickly. Just has to continue to get stronger and get better in terms of his power. He knows that too. But that's typical of high school kids at this age. He's 17 years old. That's okay. He'll be fine long-term, and I expect him to be a major P4 player down the road. So Cameron Wilson, just want to give a shout out again. The tournament was in South Florida. It was in Broward and Pembroke Pines at Somerset Academy. So thank you for all the people that were there helping out, parents included, everybody that helped put the event on. It's great for media. Gabby Uridia, all kinds of guys. Marcus Benjamin were there, and some other local people as well. Isabella, she's a person that works on all kinds of stuff around the industry with video and photo. So everybody gets a chance when people work together, and that's great. Next up, just a kid that I hadn't seen before and really concentrated on, Ryan Moret, another kid that is from Southridge. Once, by the way, shout out to him for winning the state championship in wrestling. That's really important. If you have great hands and you have effort, and not many guys want to wrestle and go quite to the level of the conditioning that those guys do, shout out to you. He had a really good rep against Vliami Moala. That's a kid I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, one of the better D linemen in the country. I think he's a top 100 guy. He had a few good reps against him. I think that Moret improved his stock yesterday. Gabby, actually, on his X, Gabby Uridia, had a good video that he posted. I've got a bunch of videos on my X too. And for those of you that are curious, at FB Scout _ or at LO _ the portal, either one of those, they're going to help you get to a lot of videos from this event. Again, it was a battle in the trenches in South Florida. So I think that Moret can play center. I think he can play guard. Probably going to end up at the University of Miami if I was to guess. I don't know the full allotment of his recruitment. I tried not to interview too many kids on that. Just got more cliff notes on a few guys. And this is one that I think was trending towards Miami anyway. But now that they really need a center in this class, they need to get into getting high school kids every single year that can play center instead of the 1-year rentals they've done. I would not be surprised if he committed sometime before the summer was over to the Hurricanes. Next up, this is probably going to be better just to go by O-line here in general. I think I'll do that from this point forward. California Power, again, is the most dominant. One of the guys that doesn't get enough attention is Breck Kolojay. He's a guy that is at IMG. He's from the 303. He's got the tattoo on his left arm. That's Denver. I don't know where he's going to go. He mentioned Carolina, Ohio State, and Michigan as visits this week. I know Miami just got a visit from him. Really hard to say where he's going to go, but man, is he good. He has improved his technique so much. He's one of the top 5 or so offensive guards in the country, I think conservatively, and I can see why so many teams really wanted to recruit him. Excellent kid, really down to earth, but he's also a guy that's got a chip on his shoulder. When guys want to get after him, he's more than happy to reciprocate. I think he will be a big-time recruit that turns into a big-time player. A lot of guys don't have the passion to take their physical traits, even if they have the same skill as Breck. This kid does. He wants to compete. He doesn't need the reps. He's already got all the offers. He doesn't need any of that. Didn't care. He still went out and did this event. He went out and he did Under Armour. He's a guy that wants to compete. I think that he deserves more attention, and I believe he's probably one of the better offensive linemen in the country. Just forget interior or being a tackle. He's a big-time player. Next, this is a guy that I knew was good, and seeing him again just solidified it, is Chancellor Barclay. He's with Trench Gorillas. He's at the First Academy in Orlando. Very solid player in terms of everything he does with his base. And even when he doesn't have a great rep, he's gotten strong enough now he can fend off guys. That's important. Sometimes you're going to go up against some bulls, and when I get to the D-line and start listing their weights, you'll understand what I mean. You're going to lose some battles when you're a power player. You're going to lose some battles when you're a speed player. Well, he mixes a little of both. Chancellor will jump set a lot of guys. He will also really try to strike first, take the aggressiveness to the defensive player. Not a lot of defensive tackles are ready for that. And Barclay is probably best at guard. He could maybe play tackle in some systems, but now that he is committed to the Clemson Tigers, and for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, he's the picture on the YouTube thumbnail that I put up for the Portal podcast with the gloves up. Chancellor Barclay is a very intuitive person. Once he learns a little bit about the guy in front of him, he will adjust. And he tries to do things differently so they don't adjust to him. That is a working man's football player, and I love that. Not everybody has the ability to gain that knowledge and in the same day apply it. I'm a big fan of what Barclay did. And he didn't win every rep like nobody did, but he would adjust. Sometimes he would set hard to the inside. Sometimes he would mix it up. Sometimes he would jump set. Sometimes he wouldn't. That makes it more difficult for the defender to guess. And once they start thinking, they usually slow down. There's a reason that Barclay had numerous offers, and his final 3 were Clemson, Florida, Miami. From what I could tell, he told me Florida probably came in second, but he is committed to Clemson once again. Next, sticking with the offensive line and moving back to California power, Canon Pickett, 6'4", 6'5", 320 pounds. This is a young man that played left tackle for the most part. He moved around a little bit in the order where they put each other, and they had some fun with it. But I was really impressed with him, again, with being consistent and being patient. Even if you're as talented as Canon Pickett, many guys will get aggressive to the point where they lunge. They get out over their feet, as it said, and you lose balance, you lose power, and then you get YouTubed. All the wrong reasons. You get YouTubed. Canon Pickett has more or less narrowed it down to a handful of schools, and I could see why Georgia and Bama are trying to get in to the mix. Clemson recently had a visit. He moved them up high on his list. Florida State, Florida, and Miami are the other three. Those are the probable schools that he's going to select from, and I expect a decision later this summer. He doesn't know where he's going. I know there's a lot of speculation with it, but it's still going back and forth, and I know him pretty well. And again, I can see why they want him. He's very consistent with his ability to pass set, whether he wants to do vertical, whether he wants to kind of get outside and cut off the edge of somebody he thinks is going to speed rush. He mixes it up, kind of like Chancellor Barclay, but he was playing tackle. Barclay's more of an inside guy. And I was appreciative of how he did that, because sometimes guys get really, really concerned because the player in front of them is really talented, and then they just get burned. So you've got to be aggressive, even if you're the offensive player. There's nothing wrong with striking them first. And when you do, you usually have a better chance. When we come back, we're going to continue on with a long list of elite recruits from battle in the trenches in South Florida. That is next here on The Portal. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. With Factor, you get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, so you can fuel your body without feeling the hassle of cooking. Factor meals arrive fresh, never frozen, and with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences each week, you can customize your menu to fit your goals, whether that's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Convenience meets nutrition. This is where you should look at the entire operation and be very happy with what Factor does for you. Factor allows you to keep track of your healthy meals, delicious, and also doing it without using a ton of time. This is where I hate cooking: time consumption. It takes a lot to get them prepared, go get them, and also to clean up. With all of these different things, Factor meals will consume much less of your time, and you're getting better food for you. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code factorpodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off free shipping on your first box. This show is also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House. Plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands. You'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast, coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for a trade pro looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks and a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. It is now your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies in just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Continuing on with some of the offensive linemen that I saw and some of the recruitments and everything that's going on, a player that I'd seen a couple of times earlier this year, another 5-on-5 event included, would be Xavier Payne. He's out of Jones High School in Orlando, Florida. He's a massive kid, 6'6", 320, give or take. And to be quite frank with you, he's improved a lot just in a couple of months. He's probably going to end up at offensive guard at the college level, and I think he's gotten more patient. In a similar fashion to a couple of the young men that I mentioned right before the break, Canon Pickett, just as one example, he doesn't always jump set somebody. He doesn't always just go vertical. Xavier Payne mixes it up a little bit more. And more importantly than that, he's not lunging. He's not getting out over his feet too much, being too overly aggressive, even when he does try to strike the guy. With his size, even if he allows the guy to come to him, he's probably going to overpower most players. I thought Xavier Payne had improved with that, and he went up against, again, this was pretty darn good competition. He wasn't perfect by any means, but I saw him improve with his reps, and I tried to evaluate more on Sunday than I normally do than film, and I thought he was better. With that being stated, is he still going to go a lot longer into the process to adjust from tackle to guard and doing different things? Of course. Offensive line is a lifelong learning skill. This is not an easy craft. So anybody, even if they're getting major offers, he's got Penn State and Georgia, and he's committed to Florida State. He's got all these offers. He still has a long way to go, but it's not that he's not a good player. It's just that it takes forever to learn all the nuances of offensive line. I like him a lot better in pass protection than I did. And again, can't teach 6'6", 320. So Xavier Payne, I give a big thumbs up for his performance on Sunday down there in South Florida. Next, a kid that probably doesn't get enough rep in terms of all the different schools that recruit. Now, I don't know what it is, but Kirby Vital is a kid at West Boca. I don't know why. He's not gotten as much attention as some other players. I thought he was pretty good. I actually posted a couple of videos from West Boca and his teammate, Jamar Thompson, is a stud defensive tackle from South Florida, really, really talented player. That kid too. But Vital is a kid that I think he can play guard or tackle. He's got to add some weight. He's going to get better. He's kind of in a similar situation to Xavier Payne, different body types, but it's just a matter of technique and time. If you need a guy that's a 5-star, that's not what he is, but he's going to be a starter at the P4 level, I think, at some point. He's a lot better than what I originally thought. I didn't really concentrate on O-line nearly as much at Under Armour, and he was at the Orlando event, and I went to each of them in Florida. But Vital's a kid that's probably underrated. That's why these tournaments, again, are so important. I'm going to say that probably a couple more times today. If you're not going to 5-on-5s and you're a big man, there's a problem. You should. It is an easy way to get in front of scouts, and we're going to talk to coaches, etc. Now, the key to this is you got to understand, even if you are really good, that doesn't mean that you're the only guy out there making plays and you're going to win every rep. There are going to be losses too. How do you handle them? I thought Vital was a kid that was pretty consistent. Now, again, just get bigger, stronger, continue on technique. It's a lifelong learning skill. Again, he will be fine. I think he should end up in the P4, but we'll see where he goes. Maybe the guy that I'm most excited about from this, I kind of saved this for last amongst the seniors. I'll go to a couple of juniors momentarily. This is just a great kid, first off. Really, really nice guy. Darius Gray, he's out of Richmond, Virginia for California Power. Maybe the best guard in the country. You could make that argument. Him and Barclay and a few other guys, you can all argue. Maybe him and those two and Kolojay. You can make an argument that best three in the country were there. It's debatable. But all I can tell you about him, though, compared to some of the other guys that I was watching, when he punches, and I don't mean that in a literal sense, but when he puts his hand out and connects with another man's chest, they stop. Darius is a basketball player, not a wrestler. He plays guard sometimes at 280. That's crazy, by the way, but I literally said that. Yes, plays guard sometimes at 280, kind of like a point forward. And he's so strong, I doubt very many people can get the ball away from him. But he's a guy that's really good on the basketball court too, so that tells you one thing. You're not going to hide on a basketball court unless you got feet. And goodness, can he slide laterally. His ability to bend at the knees and move with even some of the quicker pass rushers is tremendous. He's an interior guy. I think he could play right tackle in a heartbeat. He's 6'3.5", 6'4". That would be my guess. But just tremendous athlete and very consistent with his punch. Guys don't get very far with him. I don't know a ton about O-line technique, but I know when you hit them in the chest and they don't move, that's a good thing. And he did that multiple times to the point it was just like, holy cow. Chancellor Barclay even said something to him in between some of their competition. He's like, you are really strong. And I'm like, yeah, that's 100% correct. He really is. And that's probably why his offer list is ridiculous. Right now, I think LSU is the team to beat. South Carolina's up there. But he told me he's going to take 9 official visits. 9. I don't know if he's going to be able to get all of those in. That's a lot of schools. Virginia Tech and a whole bunch of other schools are involved. I'm not going to go on into it super deep. You can look up Darius Gray anywhere on the internet and kind of get some of it. But this is what you need to know about his recruitment. He wants to make sure he gives everybody a chance. He's got a good relationship at LSU, and that's why I think they're the best bet. But it is still 9 visits. This is by no means a shoe-in. He wants to take those trips. We'll see. As far as his timeline, he would like to get it done this summer, but it could carry over into the fall. So Darius is a top 50 kid, and I don't really think that's going to change. Somebody's going to get a player that is not only physically mature, but mentally mature too. That also helps your recruitment a lot. And he's a guy that I think has just got a world of potential to help any college football program that he goes to. When we come back, we're going to switch over to a couple of junior offensive linemen and then talk about the defensive players. Still got a lot to go here on the Portal Podcast. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get into the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. For me, it's just what I said a moment ago. It's about the Cinderella stories. Me growing up in the state of Indiana, I loved high school, college, and pro basketball, but the tournament always held a special place for me because it was so unpredictable. One of the things that I look for are those teams that can hit the threes and that can get hot. It's not necessarily they're going to win the tournament, but they can really change who even makes it to the Final 8 or Final 4. So games that you want to look at, that's up to you. But the Cinderella stories for me, whether it's a halftime score, whether it's a player total, whatever it may be, there's a lot of different things to look at. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all NCAA tournament long. There are a couple of juniors that I wanted to mention, and I'm not going to go into too much with the underclassmen, but there are a couple of kids on the offensive line, and I'm like, okay, these guys they're pretty darn good. And I think that it's important. Well, one's an underclassman defensive lineman, and one's an O lineman. You just don't see size with kids that are barely old enough to drive, and in one case here, isn't old enough to drive. And that's a big deal, because when you watch these kids walk up and they're 6'5" and taller and they're filled out, but they got this baby face, it catches your attention. So, and I apologize on some of the names I'm getting ready to give you. These are some of the kids that are Polynesian. I'm probably going to mispronounce at least 80% of these, and that's a conservative estimate. But Lex Malengai, he's out of Mater Dei in California. That is a power guard. He's already over 300 pounds. He uses his hands well. You can tell that he's not only received good coaching, but he's accepted it. That's key right there. He's accepted it. This is a kid that when he puts his hands out and he walks onto somebody and he sets down low, how many individuals are going to move him very well? Good luck. Really like him. He's class of 27, tremendous prospect. Then the other kid, somebody that I've talked about on this show a few times, and I've posted some different things about him, Marcus Fakatu. Again, I could be pronouncing that completely wrong, but holy cow, what a player. He's another LA area kid. He's in the Trinity League. Really, really good kid. Very, very humble. Wants to take coaching, always asking questions. He's 15 years old, 6'7.5", 270 pounds, and a power edge rusher. He'll one arm stab somebody. He'll long arm him. He will mix it up with a rip move, come back underneath. He's already added a few things, but he's still predominantly power. He's 15 years old. He can't even drive a car, and he's already got offers from across the country. This will be a kid that has 50 offers before his sophomore year is over, quite possibly by the end of next spring. Let's just say that. By the end of next spring, he'll be at the 50 offer marker, give or take. Some schools may not because they know they got no chance. That could hinder his number, but whatever the case may be, he's going to end up in a major college football program, and I can see why. Discipline, athletic, length, strong is all get out, and he just likes it. Marcus is a kid that you love to see if you're a recruiting analyst, because not everybody that gets these offers, and he's already got some of the major offers, and he still comes out and competes and wants to gain every rep that he can possibly get. Not all kids are like that. That's why these 5-on-5 events, again, are important. Ask Torrian Wilson, ask Ray McNeil, or ask any O or D-line trainer there is. Reps, reps, reps. They're all going to tell you that. All of them. And too many kids kind of hide in the back of the line at the Under Armour event or whatever. I guarantee you when it's his time, Marcus is not going to do that. He's going to be the first dude up there, and that will help him jump not only in terms of his popularity with recruiting analysts, but college coaches. They need guys that are out there that are dogs. They don't want guys that just talk it. They need people who are going to walk it. Marcus is that guy. Now let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to start with a guy that is one of the most unique players that I've ever seen. Again, I apologize up front for all the names. I'm gonna butcher the next 4 names probably. It is what it is, but you can't teach, and the number I'm going to give you is legitimate. It was weighed in at the University of Miami too, because California Power went to the University of Miami, took their kids, and they weigh them and stuff. 390 pounds. I'm going to say that again. 390 pounds. And he's about 6'2", I'm going to guess, just by looking at him from the eye test. Nose guard, Manoah Fapausa. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but just an absolute tank. Absolute tank. I don't think there are many guys that I've ever seen like him in terms of a size and athleticism combination. Like Vince Wilfork, somebody in that realm is somebody you could use as an example. I don't know how many people can handle that, especially at the high school level, though. Like it's insane. So I'm trying to find a video on my. I found. I'm gonna put this up on the screen for those of you on YouTube, and I'll explain it as well, because this is just a ridiculous amount of power that this young man has. All right. Ball is snapped and he's playing zero tech basically, and you're a normal high school kid. This is really all you need to know. If you're a guy that it's 290 even, you're a pretty big cat. You're still at a 100-pound disadvantage. So how do you handle something like that? What do you do with a guy that has this kind of power? I mean, he hikes the ball in like a simulated snap, takes one step, and he just completely runs over him and just kind of jogs to the cone. It's wild to me because he didn't even take like 3-4 steps. He just 1-2, and the guy was launched. It's incredible. His low base helps him, but he also, like, there's a second rep that I connect. I just put both reps on here. The second move that he did was a spin move. This is a guy at 390 doing a spin move. Now that I know I haven't seen. High school kid at 390 doing a spin move. And just from communicating with the young man, I mean, to be really honest with you, Fapausa is nice as he can be. Now, I don't think I'd want to be in front of him, but there's a reason that Bill Belichick in North Carolina wants him. He runs, obviously, a 3-man front. He needs a nose guard. Not really shocking. Texas, Arizona, other schools that need big bodies for their defenses. I don't know where he's going to go. And he told me he just wants to go play ball. He's just going to let the visits kind of figure it out. I was like, okay, I can accept that. And I loved his attitude. Another kid, I want to compete. I want to do the best I can. Elite nose guard. He deserves more attention. Vliami Moala, I mentioned him earlier. He's a kid he's one of the smaller guys that came in with the Polynesian group from California Power. 6'3" and 320. Committed to the Oregon Ducks. Great guy. Huge personality. Extremely agile for his size. Like, his bend in his lower body was tremendous. I think he's a top 100 recruit. I stand by that. He's committed to the Ducks. He's still going to take some visits. SC's probably going to get one. Utah and several other schools are still involved. But holy cow, you could play him at 3-tech at 320 pounds. Not just a nose guard. You could play him at 3-tech, 100%. Committed to the Ducks, and that's just insane. Here's the ironic part, and it not just in terms of being a poly kid from out west, but he's also identical in size pretty much, and I'm definitely going to butcher this name. Tomuhini Topui, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but again, 6'3", 320. Another kid committed to the Ducks. That kid is an animal himself. Another kid that just tremendous football player and effort, stays low. He's probably a little more power, I would say, than Moala, They're a little different in style. Manoah will get a little flashier with what he tries to do, and he's so agile he can, but this kid's the same kind of deal. There is no way in the world. I posted this on my X handle, FBScout_Florida, and retweeted it, I believe, on the portal X handle as well. Oregon's D-line is going to be ridiculous moving forward. They recruited D-line pretty well last year. They got some other guys committed besides the ones that were at this event. Good luck to any O-lines playing the Ducks moving forward. They are really, really, really good. The best player, in my opinion, at the event, this is the last California Power kid that I'm going to talk about. And to be honest with you, I don't think you could compute it and pull it out of a computer any better than the way this young man embodies how you play defensive end, whether it's just a speed rusher, whether playing speed to power, power to speed, whatever. And again, probably going to mispronounce the name. Simote Katoanga, just absolutely the picturesque frame to play edge. He's 6'5", 255. Told me he wants to drop a few pounds for next season. Great kid. Plays hard every rep. Just does his job. Goes back to the defensive end position, lines up again, and attacks. He is an absolute animal on each rep. He's already committed to USC. He's done with his recruitment. He's locked in. He's not taking any visits, but he does not care. He is there to get better. He wants to compete on every rep, and he doesn't care what you think about how bad he just smoked you on the last one. And there's a few that he put guys on their butts. The next rep's all he's concerned about. Give me 1 million of those guys to help build me my defensive line. I don't know how to say it. Katoanga is just the guy that you want at edge. He's the first guy off the bus on a road trip. USC got a stud that kept an excellent football player home. Good for the Trojans. And just a great kid. I didn't talk to him much about recruitment and all that. I know his recruitment's over, but just an incredible football player. Last guy, and there are tons of other kids I could have talked about. I'm already at 30 minutes here, so I'm going to cut it off. But the last guy I want to talk about is Alex Willis. He's a defensive lineman from the First Academy in Orlando. I'd seen him before, but seeing a guy a second time is really important. He's a guy that I think can play 5 technique in certain situations, but he'll probably end up as a long-term 3 technique. Really enjoys his craft, getting after it. He's getting better with technique, and he's put together like athletically. Holy cow, he is shredded. They put him through a serious conditioning program at the First Academy, so it's pretty interesting. Alex has the ability to change direction for a guy that's over 250 pounds. Once you get to that 250 mark, guys that can move laterally, that's where the difference is. And he can do that. NC State and several other schools, UCF, a bunch of programs are after him. I'm curious to see where he ends up. I think he's a guy that's, although he's ranked as a 3-star, I think pretty much across the board, he could end up being higher than that. He's got a lot of talent at rushing the passer, and big guys generally don't do that tremendously well. He was pretty good at Under Armour, but I thought he was even better at battle in the trenches. And again, shout out to Torrian Wilson, Ray McNeil, and everybody else that's involved, parents, all the people that work the event. They give guys like myself, Gabby, Marcus, everybody that comes out, Isabella, everybody needs these kind of events for content, to grade kids, and to understand what's coming down the pipe for the recruiting industry. Without it, we wouldn't have the opportunity to do the things we do. And we'd even have this podcast for that point. And to be honest with you, I love it. Going to those events is more fun than anything else that I do, because so many kids are in one place. So thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first stop for all your latest recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. Appreciate that. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Please hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to this podcast and share it. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.